All right. So, what is one word that describes how you are feeling about being home for the holidays this year?
I feel ecstatic.
Ecstatic.
Yes.
Okay. Carly.
I feel like I can finally take, a deep exhale of all the stuff that I've been going through these past couple of weeks.
Okay. That's good. I would say one word for me would probably be probably excited. I'm excited for this holiday season.
Are you like at your parents' house, Michaela?
No, I live alone, but I don't stay far from home. I stay
Uh,
like 15 minutes from home. So I'm excited just to be around everybody. So the fact is, roughly half of students, college students, reported that they feel stressed or anxious about winter break itself. And then 8 out of 10 of them expected to have a positive impact on their mental health by going home. So one thing or one theme that we kind of want to talk about today is like, for some people, home is, a break from college and it's something that they look forward to and they're excited about, but for some people it's also not, and it just really depends on like their home life and their family situation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about energizers and drainers. So whether home is like somewhere that you feel comfortable, somewhere that's like a breath of fresh air, or whether it's somewhere that maybe you want to avoid, everybody has energizers and drainers, no matter what their home situation is. So an energizer is what it sounds like. It is somewhere something that boosts your vitality, your enthusiasm, and your motivation. And then a drainer is someone or something that kind of depletes your emotional and mental energy, and it often leaves you feeling frustrated or exhausted. So, thinking about self care and being home for the holiday seasons, what are some energizers and some drainers for how you will be able to perform your self care while being home? So I'll start. I know when I was in undergrad and I used to come home, being home was actually a drainer for me. And that's because I'm the oldest of six. And so, like, coming home is always like I had to step into mom mode. And when I was in undergrad, I finally had freedom. And I did not have that when I came home. I had my self care regimen and my routine, and I had my friends. And so, like, being away at school, I knew what I liked and how I liked to do my self care routine and how I like to spend my time. And I always felt like during undergrad, whenever I came home, that was completely ruined. It was like my sisters were always in my stuff. Nothing was where I wanted it to be. When I was ready to shower, my brother was in the shower. When I was ready to do this, so like coming home for me, the drainers were like being surrounded by too many people because I was so used to like kind of being on my own, doing what I wanted to do. I would say that the energizers though was just also being around too many people, because a lot of times like college was a really lonely period for me. Although I had really great friends, sometimes when I was just in my dorm by myself at night, I really just felt kind of isolated and alone. So one of the energizers was also being around people and like getting to laugh with my family and getting to have dinner with everybody, and like whenever I felt like having conversation, being able to have conversation with somebody. But at the same time, it was also a drainer because it was like I'm still the oldest sister. I have to step into mom mode. And a lot of times my siblings got on my nerves and I would be like, I can't wait to go back to school. Everybody's making me so mad. So, what are maybe some energizers and drainers for how you guys perform your self care while being home for holidays?
oh, you can go, girly.
Oh, okay. So like me and Michaela kind of have the same kind of experience, like both our energizers and drainers are like being around people. Like for me personally, being in my dorm room all the time by myself just wasn't good for my mentality. So coming home and getting to be around family, a bunch of people, hearing noise, because sometimes when you're in your dorm, it's like eerily quiet. And I did a research where, like, quiet, that type of quiet is known to drive people insane. So it's good to have some type of noise again, some type of movement other than your own while you're at home on break.
For me, it's kind of hard to say now because this is my first Christmas home or like my first extended break. So I might still be in the kind of honeymoon phase of everything. I think it's definitely just honestly, I think at least from what my friends said, a lot of people were worried about going home and having like less freedom, like less being able to just get up and do what you want. So I kind of relate to that in a sense, like, at college you're able to just kind of like I'm able to move as my own person and not necessarily like because my family's a bad thing or anything. It's just like I'm just used to I like to be at certain places at a certain time. I like to be early. I like to just be able to get up and go. And then so when you have like your family, it's a little less of that and you have to move as a unit. But then that's more of like the de-energizer, I guess. And then my energizer. But still having my family is definitely an energizer. Just being able to like be around them and just see them and being able to like cook and have dinner, talk to my mom and just her being there for me. So I think definitely my family is also my energizer. So I relate to that.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I definitely think that that's the primary thing with coming home for most college students is like when you go to college, that is just a freedom that you have never experienced before, and you kind of get into the routine of just like making your own life for yourself. And so then coming home sometimes, whether you have, a good, stable, loving environment or whether that might not be the case, either way, your freedom is kind of limited to a certain extent because you are coming home and you're kind of like back into the same patterns that you were before that maybe like is something that you don't implement into your day-to-day routine while being away at school. So, can home be the stressor? So, college students reported that family is a central stressor. About 49 to 50% of college students identified family as their biggest source of holiday stress, followed directly by travel and finances. So, what do you think is the hardest part of transitioning home for you during this winter break? I would say for me, thinking back to undergrad, the hardest part was probably family, because my travel and finances were kind of taken care of by my dad. But I would say like just knowing that, like I said, being the oldest of six and like maybe not being ready to step back into that role because when I am home, that is my primary role is to be like an older sister or like a second mother. But I would say, like in present time, seeing as like I live alone, but I don't live far from my family, um, the biggest like stressor for me now would probably be finances, just because it's like Christmas is expensive. It is so expensive. But yeah, that would probably be my biggest source of stressor.
I think to me, I don't really know what this is called, but I feel like just with coming home, it can kind of be overwhelming. Like, especially just my first year in college, because everyone's just like, oh, what are you doing? How's everything going? What are you expecting? Your grades. So it's just like, a lot of attention, I don't know, like that you get around it. And sometimes that I think can be a bit overwhelming, especially just like looking at the next steps of like what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think people are just out of the kindness in their hearts, are just really interested in like how you're going and where you're going, how you're going to get there. And for me, like a lot of that, I don't know if I have it figured out yet. So that can be a bit stressful for me.
For me, it's definitely like all of the above. Like, it could be overwhelming. It could be like, it's like you're still stuck on that high of like being on your own and figuring things out on your own. And then you got to come back home and it's like the things that might have worked for you in college while you were on your own, they don't necessarily work the same way now that you're back at home. And for me, it's like you kind of feel like, I don't know, childish in a way. Because it's like you got to answer to an adult now. once again, basically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of those. I think that it definitely is hard having that freedom and then coming home to like, so at college you might feel like an adult, right? You feel like I'm an adult, I'm in control of my life, I'm getting it together, I'm finding who I am. And then you come home and it's like, I thought I was an adult, but I guess not, because my mom and dad is still yelling at me about chores, my siblings are still getting on my nerves, and it's like just very overwhelming. And then there's also that piece that Kayla mentioned, that it's like when you are in college, everybody is expecting answers. They're like, what are you studying? And what is your 5-year plan? And where are you going to go from here? So that's also like a stressor as well. So, like we talked about, being home for the holidays can look different for every single person. For some people, it's comfort. For some, it's stress. For some, it's peace, and others, anxiety. Regardless of what home may be for us, we can equip ourselves with the tools like self care, boundary setting, and mindfulness practices. And these allow us to ensure that our mental health is doing well, either away from or being at home. So, let's talk about it. So, when we talk about self care, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Why do you guys think that self care is so important during the holiday season?
Um, well, just like statistically, I think just maintaining your self care throughout the holidays is important. Just because, like statistics show that even like once the holidays drop off, that's kind of one of the biggest times of like for people with depression and stuff, because it's just such an exciting time. So everything's big, there's family, there's gifts, there's presents, there's so much going on. And I think once that drops off, it can kind of be like a big emotional drop off too. And so I think maintaining your self care helps you just still have a sense of normal. And that way, when you are shifting back to school and everything goes back to normal after having such an intense experience, then your sense of normalcy is kept and you're still keeping yourself up. So it's not as much of a shift, so many emotional changes that you're going through. And I think it keeps you in the right headspace. Especially like even if it's negative at home, then you have a sense of normalcy where you are still taking care of yourself until you get back to school and continue to do so.
I think self care is so important during the holiday season, especially for college students, because when you're at home, when you're surrounded, when you find that comfortableness in your familiar. Oh my God, what am I trying to say? When you are surrounded by your family again and you feel comfortable surrounded by that familiarity, you could kind of get stuck in that sort of familiar place, right? So, what I've come to find out is that it's hard for a lot of students to return back to college after going through that. Like, they get stuck there. You want to stay because it's like, wow, I had such a hard time in college. Like, now that I'm back home, you start getting in your head and thinking about, maybe this is what I want, you know. So it's very important that you understand that it's just a little break that you're taking for your mental health, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. I think that self care is important during the holiday season for anybody. The holiday season is stressful, no matter who you are, no matter where you're going to or where you're coming from. It's stressful because of finances, it's stressful because of family, it's stressful for loads of different reasons. And so, making sure that you are taking care of yourself during the season is so important because, like Kayla mentioned, that statistic piece of like seasonal depression and just being during the winter months. Um, we need to take care of ourselves more during these months because it is so statistically known for depression and anxiety and all of these different emotions that can really be like limited when we do practice our self care. So when thinking about like practicing self-care during the holiday season, whether that's practicing away at school or practicing while you're home for the holiday. How do you think that we can actively practice self-care while being home?
I think it definitely sometimes might depend on what your home life looks like. So speaking from just like my personal perspective, I think my mom and or my moms have a very good understanding of what self-care is. So like I don't really have to explain to them why sometimes I might need space. So I think just being able to have the people around you understand that hey, sometimes space is needed. That doesn't mean you don't love them, but sometimes just setting aside time for yourself to do something where maybe it's not just everything with family. Because I think the holidays are a very, I guess, come together kind of thing, and just everybody has to be doing so much all the time. So I think not being guilty about taking time for yourself and not wanting to have to be around your family just because there's the pressure of, oh, you're home for this short amount of time, you should be involved all the time. I think there's nothing wrong with just setting aside time for yourself to do something, just even if it's just an hour or a couple hours, whatever you need to just clear your mind.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that as well. So like we'll talk a little bit too about like setting boundaries, right? We talk about like the freedom that we have away at college and then like coming home and being like kind of pushed back into these familiar roles, and like in a sense it can be comforting and it can be something that feels familiar and we might like fall right back into place, but sometimes it might also be hard too because for some people college is the time that they go and they explore and they like find their own identity. And so like making sure that you can want to be home and you can want to spend the holidays with your family, but you can also set those boundaries to make sure that you're maintaining your own mental health and that you're taking care of yourself while you're home. So if you guys had like the perfect self-care day while being on break, what would that look like for you?
For me, I think it's definitely waking up late because I love to sleep. So probably waking up late, maybe cooking because I love to cook. It's one of my favorite hobbies. Just I like cooking for others, cooking for myself, even making like breakfast, making sure like I eat. Um, Maybe hanging out with my best friend because we're both in college, so we didn't get to see each other as often anymore. Um, Doing activities that I like thrifting or just something like that, going to movies, and then maybe coming back, decompressing, just chilling, watching a show. Like the Harry Potter movies, I plan to watch those again. So watching a movie and then maybe hanging out with my family and, just take my shower, go to bed. Something really simple.
A perfect self care day for me while I'm on break would look like, waking up early in the morning because I sleep late anyways. Doing my skincare routine, my new Korean skincare routine that I just started. Starting cooking because I don't cook that much, but I do. I definitely plan on doing a lot of cooking over the break so I could take those skills back with me to college. Being able to finally revise a chapter of the book I'm trying to publish, being able to revise that, being satisfied with it, with the structure of it enough to start on the next chapter. Also, since I'm in Houston, I would love to go and visit some of the beaches they have here. Like I heard they're very big and beautiful, and I'm just looking forward to seeing Houston in its entirety and coming home to a nice meal after a long day of exploring and cozying up to a good book at night.
I think those are both really good days. I think that my perfect self-care day would be sleeping in a little bit, not too much, but enough to feel rested. And then maybe like doing my skincare routine. If the house is a mess, straightening up a little bit because I want to relax in a nice, clean, comfortable home. And putting on my favorite Christmas movie, which is Home Alone, and making some hot chocolate and just wearing like my fuzzy socks and my robe and like just being real comfortable. And if it's the perfect day, then it's snow outside so that I can have the windows open and it can feel like Christmas. Okay, so like I mentioned before, I wanted to talk a little bit about like setting boundaries. So when we talked about like, stepping back into those roles and still wanting to like maintain our own self-care and like not feeling guilty about needing alone time. Because while it is good to be back around family and be surrounded by everyone, especially like the people that you missed and wanting to spend time with them and knowing like, okay, I am here for a short time, so I do want to spend time with you, but also needing time for yourself and that being okay because that's how we set those boundaries, because we are young adults and we are finding our own identity, and that's what college has been helping us do. So what is something that you wish your family and friends could better understand about either your mental health, your current stress level, and or your self-care routine? And then I can start for this one. I think that something that I wish my family could better understand is that, yes, I do love being an older sister, but no, that is not my only role. Like, I want time for myself, and I don't want to have to feel guilty for wanting time for myself. Just because someone else may need something from me, and I do want to help, but also I want to be able to take care of me too. And that I want them to understand that, like, um, without being like rude or without like making anybody else feel less than, I want them to know that like I have to put myself first and that just has to be okay.
I think for me, I don't know if I really have anything specific. I think I'm very blessed to have women in my life who I think understand and remember what this time was like, but also just are very understanding in general. So I think they all have a good respect for all of those things for me. And I think just, I guess, to say again, like, I think it's just important to have communication. So I think if there is something where I'm not being understood, again, very blessed that I'm able to communicate that to them in a way where they are respectful. So, yeah.
I'm also very blessed to have a support system as well who understand my emotional and physical needs enough to know that sometimes I need a break and sometimes their high expectations of me do more harm than good. And sometimes I might need to decompress from all of that to understand what my purpose is and where I want to go and how I want to reach my own goals. So, yeah, not really much I have to say on that part, but yeah.
And that's really good. And I think that Kayla mentioned a very important piece is that um, when setting boundaries and when like talking about your mental health, your stress level, and your self care routine, having that open communication is so important. When you have open communication, people are more likely to try to understand you from your own perspective. And so practicing that like open and honest communication is really key to like communicating your needs and your wants with your family and your friends. So, in thinking about that communication piece, how can you practice setting boundaries to protect your mental health and self care while back at home? Or what boundaries do you currently have, or can you set in place to make sure that your mental health and your self care is like being taken care of while being back at home?
I think another important thing is being able to say no. I think sometimes that can be very hard, especially in our families and families of color. It's not very typical to tell your family no or tell your parents or someone older than you that you don't want to do something. So I think just kind of setting that boundary for ourselves and challenging ourselves to be able to advocate for ourselves and be like, hey, I don't want to do that, or just I don't want to do that right now, or just no. Like no is a one word answer. Like,
I definitely agree with that. I think that we do have to become more comfortable with saying no, especially as people of color. That isn't a typical saying to an older adult in our homes, but when talking about setting boundaries and like protecting our peace and our self-care and our mental health, we all know ourselves best, right? We have that intrinsic like um knowledge of who we are and what we need. And so we are the author of our own stories. We know ourselves the best. And so like we know what we can and can't handle. And so sometimes saying no is like that first step to setting those boundaries and making sure that like we are prioritizing our own mental health and our own self-care. And it can be a struggle. It can be something that a lot of times I can admit, even at almost 25 years old, like I still be scared to tell my auntie no, like, oh, okay, you need my help. You telling me to do something. You're an older Black woman, like, you helped raise me, so automatically I'm gonna want to do what she's telling me to do. But also I have to think about myself in those instances and remember like, okay, can I take this onto my plate right now? Is this a part of what is my normal self-care routine, and is it gonna help me or is it gonna hinder me? And so like being able to just recognize what you need in the moment and making sure that you do put yourself first. So, when we talked a little bit about like self-care, we talked a little bit about setting boundaries. Let's talk about mindfulness. So, the holiday season can be tough for anyone, our family and friends, and especially those who may have lost somebody close to them, those who maybe have estranged relationships, or those who might be facing like some financial hardships that we know nothing about. So, what are some different ways that we can like practice mindfulness towards others while still respecting or recognizing and respecting our own emotions?
I was gonna say, or I was gonna suggest that maybe if you have a friend that's going through something, a good phone call never help. I mean, never hurt anyone. A good phone call is good. Just check in on them, see how they're doing. That way you're. It's like you're setting a boundary, but you're also being mindful of what they are going through.
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. I think checking in on people is important. I think like before when we talked about the statistics, they say like a lot of times we get busy around the holidays, so we may not remember to do it. But I think just remembering even like a text, just checking in and making sure everyone's doing good, just how are you doing, is really important because as much as like there's the glitz and glam of the holidays, we really never know what someone's going through. So just making sure that you are offering or just can be there for those around you.
Definitely. I think that is so important. Like you both mentioned, the holidays are busy, and reaching out is one of the most important ways to practice mindfulness. Like I kind of stated before, the holidays can be hard for people. For some people, it is amazing to be home. And then for some people, it might not be. And it could be because maybe they have estranged relationships with their family. Maybe they just recently lost someone, or maybe they are facing those financial hardships. So, just being mindful of our family, like when we come home, and like being mindful that maybe they're also going through something and kind of trying to be there for them, but also being there for our friends away from us, our friends that we met at school too, like maybe even checking in on them and wishing them a happy holiday, and just even a phone call, seeing how their break at home is going, because I think the three of us are really blessed to have families that we do enjoy to get to spend time with, but there might be someone that we met at school that doesn't. I know I have friends who are like dreaded going home for the holidays. And so there's been times that like even I've invited my friends to come home with me and to spend time with my family. And so like just being mindful of those things and kind of like reaching out. Um, and so then the exit question for today, what was your favorite piece of advice, your favorite game, or favorite quote from today's session?
I don't know. I guess Kayla gave me a lot of ideas about, what I could do for self care during this break. And I really enjoyed the game we played earlier. That was fun and cute.
I agree. I thought the game was fun. I don't have like anything specific. I like the general conversation. I think it's just fun to be able to like I guess, talk about these topics because sometimes you kind of like forget or just get distracted. So I just really enjoyed the conversation in general.
Yeah, I will say that was my first time playing that game, and it was really fun. Even though I didn't win, I'm a little salty, but that's okay. I will also say that I enjoyed the conversation in general. I think it is something that definitely needs to be discussed among college students. I think that one like quote kind of quote that really resonated with me is when Kayla said like, especially coming from Black and brown households, like saying no is hard. And I think that setting boundaries is so important as young adults, as college students who are like figuring out their own identity, and like you can still have a great relationship with your family and set boundaries, and those both can coexist. And I think that that is so important to recognize. Um, but I just want to say thank y'all for having this conversation with me. Thank you to everybody who's watching our Zoom later on. And I just wanted everyone to know that you guys can be a part of the conversation if you wanted to join us. If you log into our Circle app, we always post the link to our conversation, and then we'll also have the slides if you want to go through the slides and revisit anything. And there are resources at the end so that you're able to like read through some of the resources that we used to find some of our like quotes and statistics. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at Butterfly Dreams Inc. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.